They score!
Welcome to God's Playbook with your host, Father Rico Passero.
Lock at the 20, 10, 5, touchdown! Touchdown!
Let's play ball.
Friends, welcome back to God's Playbook. Today I'd like to talk about what is a monastery. Saint Bonaventure was instrumental in setting up a monastery, like certain other saints that lived in monasteries. But I use this word, and we need to know what a monastery is. A monastery is a building or complex of buildings that allow monks or nuns, whether they live in community or alone, to live. Now, most of the time, it is monks or priests or friars that live in a monastery. So this is a common building or set of buildings to which they live in, for the most part, cut off from the rest of the world. Monasteries are places where those who live there are devoted to regular, routine prayer lives. They may include a chapel or a church or a temple or an oratory, and yet this group of people of like mind, similar spiritualities, live together to pray for the world and also work so that they can be self-sustaining. This idea of living in the world but cut off from it has always been part of our church's teaching. And for many, many centuries, the church has promoted monastery living. In some cases, monasteries still house monks. In other places where they no longer reside, they become almost like museums or a place for people to tour and see. A monastery is, again, rooted in religious meaning. Those who are active ones, especially in the Catholic Church, although there are monasteries for other faiths as well, help those who live there abide by the vocation of praying for the world. I've had the blessing of visiting many monasteries in my short life so far, and I look forward to visiting others. Perhaps you listeners have done the same. Throughout Europe, they are more prevalent than places like Canada or the United States. And monasteries allow both the beauty of the building to which it was erected, but most importantly, what happens within the walls of a monastery that are really influential in regards to faith. It can be very easy at times for us to look past the role that monks and those who live in monasteries have played throughout human history, and yet their devotion to prayer is something that I think is very important to outline in today's podcast. If you've ever been able to visit, perhaps on a retreat, and be able to pray with monks during their times of public prayer, you will see that they often pray what's called the Liturgy of the Hours. The Liturgy of the Hours is a set of prayers that the Church uses as it gathers throughout the world at different parts of the day. And the same prayers are prayed, depending on the part of the world where they are spoken, perhaps in English or another foreign language, but that is native to the people of that area. And so monks gather at specific time in prayer as community, whereas the rest of the day, often monks will exist on their own, do their own work. In some monasteries, they have farms, and they sell animals to allow them to be self-sufficient. In other monasteries, they have big gardens and places where, again, they can provide their own vegetables and whatnot. In some monasteries, they might sell items like honey or jams or breads or perhaps other items so that, again, by selling to the outside world, they can be self-sustaining within their own quarters. But the focus is not about the work. The focus is the prayer. And that by living simply, often wearing habits and looking like one another, often in brown habits or simple clothing, allows those who live within a monastery to be totally dependent on God, to put their relationship with God first, and their responsibility to pray for the world is their mission, is their charism or call. Monasteries are quite beautiful. They allow those who live there to literally live there in comfortable yet simple accommodations. And by doing so, depending on the location, they can house many people or perhaps have a somewhat smaller community as well. You might have also heard the term hermitage. A hermitage is a very small place, a hut or small home in which one person lives on their own and follows a similar way of life. Sometimes people can live in their own small huts, but still live within a community of more than one person. And so again, the focus is living alone with God, almost like being on retreat 24 hours a day. This, once again, has been a big part of the church's history for many years. And again, is not just reserved to Roman Catholicism. There are Buddhist monks. There are also those of other faith backgrounds that also live in monasteries. So when you approach a monastery, one is not to just presume that it's a Roman Catholic one. Look into the background to see if it's a monastery in the Catholic faith or perhaps in another faith. And yet, in Hinduism, in the religion of Islam, in Judaism and other faith backgrounds, they have things that are modeling monasteries or perhaps have some similarities but are a little bit different. So the term monastery is not just a church term that we should say without necessarily understanding, but this constant devotion to a relationship with God and prayer and fasting, and in their work also connects to the suffering and sacrifice of Jesus Christ. And so the manufacturing or selling of goods is also done as they offer prayer to God, that God uses their prayer and their work to bring glory to his almighty name. So I encourage each of you, if you've never been to a monastery, make sure that you put it on your list. Give it a try and see the beauty that can be found within the walls for those who allow for outsiders to come in. And in many places where monasteries are closed off to the public, just seeing the grandiose building or set of buildings, one can give thanks to God for the life of those who live inside those walls, in prayer, in work, and in love. For God's Playbook, friends, I'm Father Rico. God loves you, and so do I.
If you like what you hear, please consider supporting us using any of our affiliate links in the description below via Buzzsprout, Ko-Fi, or GoFundMe. Thanks, and God bless.